I've spent the last 15 years immersing myself in finance and money by earning a degree in finance, working as a financial advisor, and also building my own businesses. But one of the most important lessons I've learned isn't about growing wealth, it's more about being proactive with your finances. So as the end of the year approaches, it's the perfect time to set yourself up for success. And in this video, I'm sharing 7 crucial financial moves you should make to take control of your money, avoid costly mistakes, and start 2025 strong. Let's start with number 1, reviewing your assets. So the first thing you want to do is simply tally any of your assets that can be turned into cash in less than 1 to 3 business days. This can be anything from your money market funds, your cash under your mattress, or any buying power that you might have in a brokerage account. We want to know how much cash we have liquid in case we run into an emergency, an unexpected expense, or in 2025 if your costs increase, like the cost of your car insurance or perhaps your gas or your groceries. When it comes to your cash reserve, we've talked about knowing your exact costs to run your household on this channel before in order to set up that ever so important emergency fund. So if your monthly needs to run your household are $3,333 a month, then your emergency fund should be at least 3 to 6 times that, or $10K at the 3-month level, or $20K at the 6-month level. Having a good amount of cash liquid lets you stay safe, gives you that buffer, and helps you sleep better at night as well. Additionally, if you know that in 2025 you need to make a cash purchase, or you need cash to, let's say, buy a house or even spend money on a wedding, I would suggest just having that money in a high yield savings account because you don't really know what's going to happen in the markets. Just make sure that if you do have cash, don't keep it in a standard checking account where it doesn't get you any interest. I think that is the number 1 cardinal sin on this channel. I will link some high yield savings partners down below, but honestly, just even keeping your cash in a money market fund within your brokerage account can be good too, because they are usually paying roughly the same interest rate as high yield accounts and sometimes a little bit even more. The point is that by the end of 2024, you should know exactly what your liquid assets look like so that in case you are far off from where you need to be, you have that time to correct it before 2025 starts. Number 2 is the 401k match. So you want to take advantage of that free money before the year ends. Again, a 401k is 100% free money. And honestly, you actually need to do this in order to hit retirement as quickly as possible. Now, the thing with the 401k matches that I'm really glad you're watching this video right now is that you have until the end of the year, this calendar year, to actually take advantage of it. So you have about a month and some change to make sure you talk to your employer if you still haven't done this. According to a Vanguard report, 63% of retirement plans out there have some sort of matching mechanism. So if we can take advantage of this before the end of the year, we absolutely should. Let's say your hypothetical salary is $100,000 a year and your company offers to match 50% of up to 6% of your salary. This is the most common type of match and it's known as a partial match. This phrase just means that of your 100K salary, 6% of it, or $6,000 of any contribution, will be matched half by your employer. So when you contribute $6,000, your company will give you $3,000 free dollars, meaning that your total balance will be $9,000 at the end of that year because your company gave you that extra $3K. So you always want to do this if you can, especially if your employer offers it, because it's literally free money. And so if you don't know if your employer offers it, you want to at least email your HR department and just figure out, hey, we have any 401k programs. Other types of matches include a dollar for dollar match, and that's known as a full match. So that's where your employers will just match 100% of your contributions up to a limit. So for example, if you make 100K a year, again, they might match 100% of up to 4% of your salary, or $4,000 total. Now, even though this is pretty widespread information, there are studies and articles that point out at least 1/3 of people still don't do this, or they don't even contribute enough money to take full advantage of that match. Quote, a Vanguard study found that 48% of 401k participants saved more than their matching contributions would require, while 18% saved exactly enough to get the full match. But that left 34% of participants who either don't contribute or don't contribute enough. Now, let's say your employer doesn't offer any matches or you're in a different country, you should still make sure you're planning for the future. So you can do that by maxing out any tax-free retirement accounts you might have access to. So for example, in the United States, you could do the Roth IRA or the IRA. Now with those accounts, they actually have a look back period. So you can actually contribute to those in 2025 for the year of 2024. So there's not really a huge urgency to get that done by the end of this year. I post those kind of updates and reminders on my Twitter. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter already, make sure to do so. I'm actually posting there a lot these days, and I would love for you to join that community. Another way I've personally set myself up for success in 2025 is developing my own personal website. And I want to take a moment to tell you about my experience with Framer.com. This is a brand that I personally reached out to because I loved their product so much. Now, I have literally zero experience writing code, but with Framer, I was able to build this personal website of mine from scratch in about 4 to 5 hours. And honestly, I think it looks pretty sleek. Building the website was all drag and drop, super intuitive, and they've got tons of templates to choose from that you can just tweak to fit your style. It was really fun making my own website, and honestly, it was pretty easy as well. If you want even more detailed insights, Framer lets you connect tools like Google Analytics, but for me, the built-in integrations have been a game changer. I finally feel like I know what's working and what's not on my website. So if you've been putting off building your website, trust me, framer.com is where it's at. I mean, it's literally quick, it's easy, it's totally beginner friendly, so go check them out. I'll link them down below. Now let's get into number 3 of today's video. Number 3 today is to sort out your debt. So the third thing that you should do before the year ends is to take count of every single liability that you owe money on. Whether you owe money on a car, a home, a jet ski, or heck, even a rare collection of Pokemon cards that you might have financed, getting a list of all your debts gives you a clear understanding of what you have to pay off and then figure out what order you should pay them off in. Now, there is a concept of good versus bad debt, and this graphic right here by Bedell Financial illustrates that in an ideal world, the perfect amount of debt is, you guessed it, no debt at all. However, if you do have some debt, let's take a look at the good types of debt. These usually have lower interest rates, and they likely will provide some sort of return over time. Generally, these will positively impact your credit score as well. And so having good debt is generally okay, as most people will have some sort of debt in their life in the form of, say, a home mortgage, a loan on education, or even a business loan. Bad debt, on the other hand, is typically comprised of higher interest rate debt, so more than a 15% APR usually, and they aren't backed by a value increasing asset. So these can be things like car loans, credit card debt, or even cash advances. Now, in my opinion on this list, credit card debt is usually the worst type of debt. And if you're someone that is nearing the end of the year with some credit card debt left, this is the perfect time to try to pay off most of it while you can. This is especially true if you get a year-end bonus at work. Make sure you actually use that bonus wisely and don't just go blow it at, say, the club. Oftentimes, people will ask me if you can still invest if you have some debt, and the answer is that it depends on your interest rate. In general, if your interest rate on your debt is less than 3 to 5%, you can invest at the same time because the market on average generates a 8 to 10% return per year. So long as market returns are greater than your interest rate, it's still financially optimal to invest instead of just prioritizing paying off debt as soon as possible. However, if you value your peace of mind, perhaps you just want to pay off that debt first and just get it out of the way. All right, the number 4 thing you should be doing before 2024 ends is to actually review and negotiate your bills. This time of year is a really perfect time to reassess your recurring expenses and try to negotiate a better rate or a better contract. So I'm sure you have some sort of insurance, cable and internet, some sort of utilities, or even a lender for your home mortgage. Usually these providers are open to adjustments as long as you're willing to be proactive and pick up the phone. For example, oftentimes at the end of the year, I can call my internet provider and ask for some sort of contract extension in exchange for a lower monthly rate. And these savings may seem small at first, but over time they can add up significantly, especially if you rinse and repeat asking different providers for better rates at the end of the year. This might take you a couple of hours on the phone, but it's well worth it. And the way that I would start is by the following. Number 1, I would call the providers that actually cost you the most money first. So you probably want to hit the insurance providers for your car, your home, or even a renter policy. Number 2, be nice on the phone. These people don't owe you anything and their job is hard enough as is, but if you are nice on the phone, sometimes they join your team and they actually can pull some strings for you. Number 3, ask if you qualify for discounts, such as if you bundle multiple policies or you get a discount for being a loyal customer for X number of years. Or like I said earlier, if you can re-sign a contract extension for a lower rate, perhaps even matching a promotional rate they have for new customers. Number 4, then I would start to call the smaller providers where a change in your rate may not be significant, but still is worth it. So for example, your internet provider, your cable, your mobile phone provider, heck, you can even talk to your gym about their membership pricing. I don't know if you'll get that far, but you can talk to them. And lastly, as a bonus, you can actually call your credit card company. I know they're not a provider in the traditional sense, but calling your credit card issuer to negotiate, let's say, a lower interest rate, or perhaps inquire about some promotional offers that can save you money on interest is probably worth it. Pretend you're able to save $100 a month on your car insurance after calling them and bundling home and auto. That's $1,200 a year just for a phone call, and I think that's pretty good if you ask me. Number 5 is that you should be setting a budget and a savings goal for 2025. If you don't have a budget already, one method I would suggest is something called reverse budgeting. That's where you take your monthly income and take your savings out of your income first and set it aside, and this is sometimes also referred to as paying yourself first. For example, let's say your monthly income is $4,500 and each month you want to save $600 of that a month. So what you want to do is set aside the $600 first and then use the remaining $3,900 towards the other costs in your life, such as groceries, bills, rent, and transportation. And in order to do that effectively, you ideally should be tracking your own expenses and really understand where your dollar is going. Once you're able to see where your money goes, you can make a plan to reduce the spending on, let's say, the problem categories you might have for 2025. Now, if you already have a budget under control, then what I would suggest is targeting a savings goal of at least 20 to 25% of your gross income per year. That 20% would include things like your 401k retirement contributions. You actually want to include that as part of the 20%. And this 20% savings goal is good because not only is it 5 times the personal savings rate in the United States, it ensures that you set aside a significant amount of your money to grow over time, especially if you're able to start early. Let's pretend you earn $50K a year starting at the age of 25 and you save and invest 20% of that. That could still compound to a meaningful $2.8 million by retirement, assuming a 8% return. Now, that is assuming you save and invest all 20% of it, but even if you just did $5,000 a year or 10% of your income, that's still $1.4 million by the age of 65, and that's quite reasonable too. Saving 20% allows you to build an emergency fund while still investing for long-term goals. As well as, I think it just creates opportunities for greater freedom within your life, whether that's retiring early, pursuing a career change, or even taking a sabbatical. If you're young and watching this, I think it's just best if you can save 20% from the get-go and only spend the remaining 80% on your needs and your wants. If you're able to stay this disciplined throughout your life, then I think your wealth will compound really quickly. Fun fact, I ran this poll on the community tab 2 months ago, and a large majority of you guys save over 10%, so that's amazing. And there's also some crazy super savers at 50%. I think that's just a really great sign of the community that we've built together. The number 6 thing you should do is tax loss harvest. If you invest in the markets, at least in multiple different types of funds or stocks, then you should definitely consider tax loss harvesting before the end of the year. And this is a strategy that has a complicated and scary name, but all it really means is that you will sell investments that have gone down in value to offset any of the gains that you've realized throughout the year. Let's say in March you sold Nvidia stock and you made $5,000 on that gain, and you cashed it out for home improvements like some yard supplies and buying a new TV. Well, at the end of the year, when you file your taxes, that $5,000 gain is a capital gain, and you would owe taxes on the $5,000 that you cashed out. But the brilliant strategy here is that you can offset that gain with the loss of another stock. So let's pretend you also own Airbnb stock within your portfolio, but you're down $3,000 on this position in total. If you sold Airbnb at a $3,000 loss, that lets you offset some of the $5,000 gain from your Nvidia sale back in March. So you would go ahead and sell Airbnb at a $3,000 loss, and therefore the total amount of capital gains that you would owe on your tax return at the end of this year is $5,000 minus $3,000, so only $2,000. Now, please note you actually have to have sold and realized these gains or losses. Any unrealized gains don't count for tax loss harvesting. And now you're probably also thinking, well, yeah, I could just realize the loss with Airbnb and buy the stock right back up on the same day. That counts, right? Well, unfortunately, there is something called the wash sale rule. That rule doesn't allow you to rebuy the same security within 30 days of selling it, and it was created to prevent this exact scenario. The rule wants you to actually exit your position, not just exit it for tax purposes and buy it right back up. Now, a lot of robo-advisors and even human advisors will probably work around this by simply investing in a similar asset in the same sector for portfolio balancing purposes, and that's completely legal and it's a good workaround. Another fun fact that I personally love is that people often get this wrong on the internet, by the way, is that if you have a big loss on a fund or a stock, let's say you've lost $100,000 this year on a solar stock, you can sell that stock so you realize the $100,000 loss, and those losses can be used to offset gains over the current and future years until the full 100K loss is utilized. So yeah, even though you lost 100K on that stock and you're pretty down bad, at least the silver lining is that you can offset any future gains until that full 100K loss is actually used up. The 7th thing you should do before 2024 ends is to work on some target financial goals for 2025. This is especially true if you have your finances in order, so some goals may include things like setting up your kids for the future, or treating yourself, or investing in other assets, or upgrading your life within reason. For your kids, you could set up a 529 plan. That's an investment account that allows you to invest and save for any education costs of your child. When you contribute to a 529 plan, you get tax advantages with your state, so that means you can get a deduction on your income when you contribute. Also, the withdrawals and earnings are tax-free as well, so long as they go towards educational expenses. That means you pay less in tax up front, and if you know you're gonna wanna help with your child's tuition in the future, this is a great option because of the tax-free earnings nature of this account. account. Of course, if you don't really care about little Johnny, you don't have to give him any money as well. You could also set up a custodial Roth IRA, which is basically the same thing as a Roth IRA, but it's for a minor, and that allows them to invest in a Roth IRA before the age of 18. Now, for your own goals in 2025, this is where you can feel free to have a little bit of fun. If you've worked hard enough on your own finances and you have that taken care of, perhaps you work towards saving for a nice vacation or perhaps upgrading your car, within reason, of course. 2025 could be the year where you take calculated risks and actually broaden your financial opportunities as well. So this means you might try your hand in investing in real estate. Perhaps you explore alternative investments like startups or collectibles, or maybe you even start a side business that you've always dreamed about. The key is to make sure that these goals are actually aligned with your values and what you care about at the end of the day. Personally, my goals include working towards a 40 to 50% savings rate, and I also want to save up for a fancy vacation at the end of the year. So if you have any suggestions on where I should go, let me know in the comments. All right, let me know if you guys agree or disagree with the things to do before 2024 ends. And as always, thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to watch my video on the 10 crucial personal finance lessons that transformed my life, I will leave that video right up here. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, it's Humphrey Talks, and Instagram, same handle. I post almost daily there, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.